What's up, guys? It's KB. Make sure you subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. Click the bell icon down below so you don't miss a single video from us. And thanks for tuning in to another video from Underground Sports Philadelphia. Now let's get into it.
Philadelphia, baby, you're going to love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
Welcome to the F1 Underground Podcast, a brand new podcast from the Underground Network focusing on all things Formula One. My name is Casey, and I am your host along with my guest, Owen. Today we're going to take some time to talk about our thoughts on the new season of Drive to Survive, the iconic F1 intro for 2023 that gave us the George Russell meme, and the Bahrain GP recap, and also a quick look into next week. So I guess let's get started.
Very quick look.
Yeah, very quick look. We have
I'm really upset that you start out with your one race and then you have to wait 2 weeks again until the next race.
Yeah, I also agree.
It's like a tease. It's like
and I saw something too. I think with Indy, they're in the same boat. Apparently, it was like a meme today, that Jake Gyllenhaal one where he like goes into the fog,
yeah.
And it was like Indy when it comes back for a first like exciting race and it disappears for a month. I was like a month.
Yeah. Oh, that's brutal.
Right.
Oh my god.
I think we have 2 weeks, and because there was supposed to be a week with China that they canceled, but
yeah, because let's see, schedule. Saudi Arabia next round. Testing. Oh, that's testing. We already watched that. Round 2 up next, March 17th and 19th. So yeah, we have this weekend upcoming, and the following weekend is race weekend.
Yes, but we'll get to that.
We will get to that.
First up, we'll touch back on. It's kind of like a weekly recap, like news within the F1 world. Kind of not. First, Drive to Survive, season 5.
Yes,
it's back. Off of first thought, it's not my favorite season. Definitely not my favorite season.
No, definitely not my favorite season either.
No. They missed on a lot of things, which I'll touch on, but it did give some obviously iconic moments as well. I do like how they started off the first literally the first episode of 2021 with that whole debacle. I like how they just brought it back, reminded all the Lewis Hamilton fans what happened. That
is their golden item right there. That's like their golden egg in terms of drama in the F1 world. They're like, I will say, compared to last season, this season definitely, or I guess 2 seasons ago in the F1 racing calendar, last season on Drive to Survive had so much more drama than this season did. So it's like, Netflix definitely was like, we got to bring this back just to remind people. But then they don't really touch on like Lewis and Max until the second to last episode. And even then, that's just like, hey, Hamilton's behind you, Max, by the way. And it's like, that's it.
It's because Mercedes was like not there for half the season.
No, you are right.
So they were like, okay, they like brought it back. I feel like they could have kept it going, but then obviously needed to drop it. Some other favorite moments, obviously that team principal meeting. I know we talked about it last week, but there's no way that was scripted at all.
No way.
Every time it comes up, it's like the new, I don't know, iconic meme in F1. It's just, I feel like it's gonna be brought up all the time.
People are gonna be talking about it all the time and everything. And I mean, it's, like we said, there's no way that was scripted. No. There's no way that Netflix plugged any sort of things in there that weren't really in there. But yeah, I mean, that was one of the key moments for me. I wanna talk about the absolute bromance opening of Gunther Steiner and
oh my god,
Matteo Benito, or whatever the hell his name is.
It'd be like a buddy cop movie with them.
I was cracking up when they opened up with that, and I can't remember if we talked about this last week, but I don't think there's ever been a better opening to it.
No, it was
season of Drive to Survive.
like, imagine that's the first ever season that you watched.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I mean, like how last year I did it, you judged me, how I went backwards. I watched season 4, then 3, then 2, then 1. Like, if that was the first thing you ever watched, you'd be like, is this a serious sport? I'd be like, no, not at all.
Not at all. Not at all. Not serious.
Not at all.
No, but I think that short clip of opening up that way also kind of set the tone for the season, because the one thing I also did like, and we had kind of talked about this off a recording, but the show did a much better job this year of showcasing all the drivers as friends.
Yes.
And definitely having like a mutual respect for one another. And I personally, I liked seeing that so much more than just thinking like all the drivers are angry and hate each other. Because I think back to swimming, where it's like, all right, I have these people that I swim against, whether they're my teammates or not. And I think about it, I'm like, yes, I want to beat you, but I do have a respect for you and I am friendly with you. So it's like seeing the drivers that way makes them feel so much more personable to me. And it's like, you're not just a robot that's only consumed about, I'm going to win this race and kind of like screw everybody else. So I really like that. But there were also some key things that I think they were missing.
But to back off what you were saying, like the first episode, I think it's first episode with Haas and everything, the episode about Haas and Mick Schumacher and stuff. Hearing Max talk about Mick Schumacher like that, I was like, Max,
yeah,
kind of like you.
It goes a long way when you show that, like I said, when you show that these drivers aren't just robots looking to win. Like, you show that, like,
especially Max. I feel like if you don't watch the show and you watch just the races every week, you're just thinking he's just someone who's winning all the time. Like, that's all his whole personality.
And
I'm happy he was back.
That's the only thing that he cares about and everything, when that's not true. But I'm happy they showed that. I'm upset they barely covered Vettel's retirement.
Oh, I'm so pissed they didn't cover that at all.
I know it kind of came out of the blue and it wasn't like it was a major story, but like not super, super important or anything. But like, he's a driver, he's retiring. That is a big thing to talk about. And it's just like the only kind of covering they did was
with Perez when he found out.
Yeah, it was Perez's interview, and he was like, "Oh, Seb has an Instagram? Like, what's the video?" And it's the one video of Vettel announcing his retirement, and he's like, "Oh." And then go on to the next.
His reaction was everyone's reaction, so.
Yeah, and that's fair. Like, I get it. Like, but if it pops up in the middle of the season like that, like, you're not going to be like, "Oh my gosh," but yeah, they definitely could have done a much better job of covering that.
They also touched on it when the whole episode with Alonso and stuff, and someone's like, it's all your fault, all this is changing, and Alonso's like, no, it's Seb's fault.
Yeah,
I mean, he is the one that started it, but
he started the whole pool of seat openings and everything.
That's not what Seb wanted to happen. No. I obviously don't know him personally, but I can tell you that's probably not what he wanted to happen.
Probably not.
No. What else? I am also kind of annoyed with the whole Mercedes episode. They didn't even cover George Russell's first win.
Yeah, that was, and like they do show it because I have 8. Was it 8? Is it this episode or last episode?
Oh, you're not finished yet, right?
I have 8 minutes left in the last episode.
Oh my god!
And
put it on. We'll live react with you.
Yeah, we're gonna live watch it right now. One of the last 2 episodes, right? There's a scene where Russell and Hamilton are talking to a crowd of people and everything, and he mentions Brazil, and then they do cut away to him winning the race and Mercedes getting a 1-2. But like, you kind of canvass the entire season. You're showcasing that Mercedes isn't as good as they used to be, and that's okay. That is the overall story of the season. Is that, hey, they're not as good as they once were.
No,
but you have this race where they dominate, they get 1-2, and George Russell gets his first win as an F1 driver. So it's like, that's
like when in years past when he was on Williams, they made like that whole scene like when he was crying in the media pen because he scored his first points. I'm like, have to make a point of George Russell's a rookie and then showing his first win with Mercedes.
Yeah, I mean that to me, the fact that they just kind of like brushed over it and was like, it was kind of like, hey, here's the last race of the season. Oh, by the way, George Russell won one. Just so you guys are aware.
Fun fact.
Yeah. So I'm upset they didn't cover that too. I think it's.
They should. For George Russell's sake, he deserved to have that on the big screen. I mean, that was a good race too, Brazil. That was a great race.
It was a very good race. Yeah, and for him to come out on top of a race like that is even more of a point to how good of a driver he is and certainly can be. So it's just, for him to kind of get snubbed like that out of like a spotlight moment, I think that would be really cool for him to be like, wow, look at this whole episode dedicated to Mercedes and everything, and then my win in Brazil. Like, you think he's sitting there like on his couch watching Drive to Survive when it premieres, and he's like, where the fuck is my win?
Where he's like, where's Brazil?
Where's my win, huh? And then gets to like the last episode, and he's like, oh, all right, I got a 5-minute like puff piece of just like, hey, by the way, you won a race. And he's like, thanks.
Won Brazil.
Yeah.
Mercedes got a 1-2 for the first time the whole season.
Yeah, and they're just gonna toss it aside.
Yeah. I don't understand why we needed to watch the Silverstone crash that many times.
And
they didn't even make it about. They didn't even make it about Joe.
No. It was other stories they were telling that happened to have major points at Silverstone, and it was like, it was a massive crash at Silverstone. It deserves to be covered and everything. It was awful
watching in live.
Yeah, but I didn't need to see it three or four times. I didn't need to see
his car being dragged upside down in slow-mo across the whole gravel.
Yeah, it was definitely covered. It was very front heavy too. Like, it was a lot of the first couple episodes that showcased it. And like you're by the time you're at like the 4th or 5th episode, you're like, I've seen this 3 or 4 times now already. Like, I don't care anymore. Like, I don't want to see this crash.
I also feel like it was a lot of kind of going off. I also feel like they covered the first few races a lot.
Oh yeah.
And then like kind of just forgot about the second half of the season. I mean, I get it. That's when Red Bull just like took over and ran away with it. So storylines weren't. But I was like, okay, I'm sure there's other things. But yeah, I did not need to watch Joe Renew go across the gravel that many times.
Yeah, that was pretty brutal. And it's also like, again, it was a big crash. It deserves to be like covered, and it's definitely worth talking about. But like, we're going over things that you like Netflix missed over the course of the season. There were other things that you could have talked about, like my biggest gripe, the Haas pole position, not even mentioned.
Oh, I know.
Not even mentioned. It's a huge thing for that team.
It was such a great thing.
It's a massive thing for that team. And it's spoke about not like never during the show. And you're like, how do you just not bring this up? Like, you have 4 seasons before this show proven that Haas gets beat up all the time and all the bad things happen to Haas.
And especially with Kevin Magnussen, like he's been a main staple of Drive to Survive for so long.
And then you don't show that he gets a pole position with Haas. And it's just like, how?
And them celebrating.
Yeah, them freaking out, like all the stuff that, I mean, I know we kind of joked about it last time. Like, I know he lost it immediately, but that doesn't matter.
Still,
like, we were so used to seeing the 6, cars of Ferrari, Red Bull, and Mercedes at the top of the grid, and all of a sudden you're throwing a Haas in there. People are like, "Whoa, this is a nice, breath of fresh air." Like, I'm upset. That is my biggest gripe, that they didn't show that at all. Because it's like that would be such a good storyline too. Like, you could throw a montage in there of all the crap that Haas has gone through.
And you thought they were going to when they made the whole thing about how K-Mag came back, like in the first episode.
Yeah.
Like, so you thought, like, just fast forward to the end. That's what you normally do anyway.
Yeah.
Like,
I was so annoyed.
I'm
gonna write a
also
letter to
kind of
Netflix.
annoyed. Netflix F1 and
Excuse me, you missed a crucial detail of the 2022 F1 season. Sincerely, a podcast
By
is
the
only
way,
2 episodes out.
By the way, have a GP in Philadelphia. Thank you.
Yes, please bring Grand Prix to Philadelphia. We should talk
Thank you.
about that sometime. The layout of the. We should talk about that.
We could do that next. We could do that next week because we can't talk about Jeddah preview for that long.
Yeah,
Okay?
you're right.
Next
you're
week.
right.
Okay, stay tuned next week. I'm also
thrilling episode of our imaginary race. Can't wait.
It could, if it got some traction.
Nope.
Listen, if it got some traction and it showed up and happened, and you're in the paddock, would you not be like, "We did it"?
This was me. This was us. This was all us.
We could just stand there next to the drivers while the national anthem is playing. I'd be on the floor.
Our names are the architects of the circuit on F1.com.
Okay, we're getting carried away. My last thing that they didn't really talk about, the Singapore craziness and Pierre Gasly almost running into the tractor.
Oh, yes.
Like the crane, like there's touchy subject with that anyway because of Jules Bianchi. Like, why didn't they not bring that up? They literally just skipped right over. I mean, I get why, because the FIA were under fire for that, and Gasly had every reason to be pissed, but
yeah. I almost wonder if because the FIA was under fire so much for it,
probably
like, they probably stepped in and were like, hey, don't talk about this. Like, because if obviously there's got to be some form of contract between Netflix and the FIA. So you have to, there had to be some sort of communication of like somebody saying like, hey, don't talk about this. We got enough crap already for it. Like,
right.
Don't touch it. Meanwhile, Netflix was probably like potential storylines of the season. It was probably on there, like.
Oh, for sure. Especially because they talk about, I mean, they don't talk about the crash that much in season 1 when they're at that episode with Leclerc and Gasly when they introduce them, but
oh yeah,
still, you could backtrack because you've mentioned him before.
They definitely could have talked about it along with everything else that we're talking about now. Like, you had the time to bring it up, and I'm honestly amazed too that this season, I think as well as the other seasons, are only 10 episodes. Like, right? Yes. Are they all 10 episodes?
I think so.
Maybe it's Netflix's formula. Maybe people just like 10 episode formats now for seasons. But like, even if you went to like 13 episodes, like, people would probably love that. Like,
and especially like with F1, with how many the schedule's getting longer. Like, I feel like you're gonna get more content. You're gonna get more drama.
Oh yeah.
So you gotta build it in.
It's gonna be much harder as a writer of Drive to Survive next year. To kind of craft storylines and fit everything into a 10 episode season. Like, especially with what you're saying, like races. There's more races being added. Like all this, like especially all the stuff happening this year with like Aston Martin. Like, you already know from this race.
You already have first race, so many.
Aston Martin's getting talked about. Like, with the Alonso move from, you could bring that from the continuation of season 5 to season 6.
Yeah.
Like, you could talk about that. You could talk about the first race. Like, there's already a good amount of stuff that they could talk about. So, yeah, they could definitely benefit from like a 13 episode season, and you won't get complaints from people. Like, people love the show. You're not going to get complaints that a season's too long or that a season is, there's too many episodes to watch or anything. Like, make it longer, please. Cover more stuff.
Like before, in the previous seasons, I feel like they did a good job at covering each team, at least somehow. Like, you didn't get Williams. You didn't get Williams this past season. You didn't get you got some AlphaTauri, but you didn't get Alfa Romeo.
You got the AlphaTauri when Pierre Gasly was leaving. That's what you got from AlphaTauri.
Yuki was upset. You didn't get every team. I'm like, okay, give me the Williams, because obviously, you had Latifi and Albon,
Ugh.
but still.
Latifi.
But yeah, there's definitely, they could easily make it longer. I don't think anyone's going to be upset.
How many? There's 20,
No one's gonna be
20
upset.
teams, right?
No, there's 10 teams, 20 drivers.
No, there's 20 drivers. That's right, 10 teams.
10 teams.
Look at that right there.
What?
You
Are
got,
you new here?
all right, relax. You could easily
do an episode
you're right.
a team.
You could easily do an episode per team. Like, and cover like a major storyline from each team that season.
Because I'm sure there's one.
Some will definitely be more boring than others. Like, like
for
Red
sure.
Bull. Like if Red Bull has a dominant season again, which they most likely will, what are you going to cover? Oh, Red Bull won again. Cool. All right. Put out a 30-minute episode covering something, and then you're good. Like, but that's probably not.
I think this upcoming season will be better. They already touched on the rookies, so they could do another whole episode on the rookies and the drama behind them. But
the rookies, the rookies episode would be nice too, because it keeps you kind of, if you're a person who only watches Drive to Survive to keep up with F1, like you're staying more up to date with people's, names and who they drive for and when they were signed and everything too.
Well, because they normally make a big deal with the rookies. I can clearly picture the end of season 1. It ends and then they cut. I don't even know if it's an after credit scene, and it's Lando going up the elevator. He looks like a child.
Oh yeah, I do remember that scene.
Because it was when he's coming in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they could easily make. I'm sure they'll make at least 1 or 2 episodes about the rookies, but
I hope so.
Yeah. Anything else on Drive to Survive?
No, just again, I'm pissed off with Netflix for not covering Haas.
And Sebastian Vettel, give him his roses.
And Sebastian Vettel. I can't complain about them not covering Vettel and then not also kind of cover him.
Yeah.
But yes, do better, Netflix.
Do better.
Do better.
Hashtag do better.
All
right. What?
Nothing. I know what you're going to talk about, and I can tell you're excited for it.
Yes, I'm very excited about it. Okay.
Yeah,
so it
was a golden item from this past week.
It's so funny. Okay, so we obviously know the intro came out for F1. Iconic as always.
Phenomenal intro.
This year's, I think, is the best one out of them all. Obviously, we got the normal stare downs from Hamilton, Max Verstappen, the normal looks. But what they did to Pierre Gasly leaning up against the wall.
Hey, I'm watching it now.
I don't know why. Leclerc, I mean, I get it because that's probably how the season's going to go.
He's sad boy Leclerc.
Against the wind. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then George Russell, I want to know how much they paid him to stand like that. And what are you going to say?
Nothing. He just popped up on my screen. I always look at media day for because we see media day pictures from the flyers and everything, and I always laugh at the dumb poses they get them to do, and the same here. I'm just trying to pick one out, Fernando Alonso, hey, we want you to look down at the ground and then super serious, just be and it's how do you get this man,
a grown man?
This is a grown man in his 40s. And
making
you're
millions of dollars.
Making millions of dollars, which is probably how they got him to do it. But
yeah.
But you get him to look up the camera like that. And it's okay, you can get past that. You can get past some of the other ones. But then, you get the golden ones of Charles Leclerc and George Russell. And you're how do you explain that to them? Who is the
George Russell
producer?
Put your hands on either wall.
Yeah, who demonstrated that to George Russell and was this is what we want you to do. We think it's going to make you look fantastic. And how did George Russell not look at them and be you're an idiot. You're an idiot.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. No way. And then again, who's the poor idiot that had to pose for Charles Leclerc for him to get a reference of him doing his sad boy
He was in Sync or Backstreet Boys, literally a 90s boy band.
Start of a 2000s music video of him trying to impress some random girl. No, stupid.
Well, yeah. And then he also was done. F1 did him dirty with the Las Vegas promos too, making him dress up in that Elvis wig
Oh my
and
God!
he had
Yeah.
glasses on, and he was like this, and then he commented, and he said, "I thought you said everyone was dressing like that."
Yeah. Which I mean,
like
you might
obviously that comment could have been a plug. I think
yeah.
he might be the new personality. He is, I think, one of the most marketable drivers on the grid. But besides that, literally, it's like
you definitely could, because he definitely is one of the more like marketable guys, because his reactions to some of the stuff are hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Like the one Drive to Survive episode, they ask him, how's the season gone? I think it's the last one actually.
Oh, and then he does like that intense gulp, and then it's just like flashbacks.
He stares at the camera, and then it flashes back to him crashing into a wall, and he screams. I mean, I
cried a little.
I don't think I've ever heard a more like gut-wrenching, like disappointing scream out of a person.
When they had that radio on TV during the race, during the French GP, I think I sat like this. I was like,
he was so angry. And it's like, you're not going to get that out of like Max Verstappen, because like,
no, you'll get curse words out of Max Verstappen.
Yeah, you're going to get curses out of Max, and like you're going to get curses out of Leclerc too, but like Max is just so much more monotone than Leclerc is. So yeah, I 100% agree. He's definitely like the new poster boy for
he totally is
for Formula One in general. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think I sent a TikTok to Marina one day, and it said, "You only got into the sport because of Charles Leclerc." And I was like, "True," because he came up on my For You page, and then I decided to watch Drive to Survive, and now I'm a fan. So sorry, male fans that feel offended, but
marketing is working.
Yes,
the social media team is working hard. But yes, George Russell's. Sorry, we got a little sidetracked. George Russell's iconic pose between the walls. Pose. I'm ready for him to like start walking down the hallway and like snapping, like he's in like West Side Story.
Well, I didn't include it, but someone made him into the, I think it's the This Is It Michael Jackson movie, because he's literally posed like Michael Jackson.
Yeah, that was a contender for my top 3.
Yeah,
that was a good contender for my top 3.
We each chose 3 George Russell memes that were our favorites. We'll I'll edit a little video and add these in later on. But my first one is the Asco Latte on Twitter. That's who tweeted this one. Is Dr. Russell in the multiverse of Mercedes, not Manus, of Mercedes.
That's a nice play on words.
So it's the movie poster. It's the movie poster of him like this, and then all the arms behind.
He's got all the arms around him. Yep.
Yes. The second one, and this is so George Russell, the bridge in London holding it up.
Perfect.
Like
phenomenal.
Yeah. So George Russell, because he's the most English man I think I've ever listened to. And then last but not least, this person's Twitter's handle is Hewis Lamilton with an E on the end. They put George Russell in the gap of Lewis Hamilton's front teeth. So if you zoom in, the picture's in 3. It's like you can't see it. You can really see it. And the last one is made with George Russell as the gap.
That one is phenomenal too, because it's not like
you have to look.
It's not like Lewis Hamilton has a major gap in his teeth.
No.
Right?
It's not like it's like Michael Strahan gap.
I was just about to say that. It's not like he's got like a Michael Strahan gap where it's like you see that dude from a block away and you can see the gap in his teeth.
Yeah.
Like it's small enough that it's there. It works, and it works so well. But
it's
the moment you zoom in, you're like, wow, oh, this is so good.
And the editing on the second picture, like shout out to that person, because I don't know how they did it. It's not even like they're super zoomed in, but you can still see, if you zoom in, it's just like a black shadow of George Russell, but you can still see the arms.
Still see his arms popping out.
Oh, and honorable mention, it's not just George Russell. This has to do with George Russell, Gasly, Leclerc, and Lando on TikTok. I sent this to you. Her name is F1 Katie 3, the F1 driver, the 4 elements from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh, yes. Oh, so good.
Pierre Gasly's water. George's... What is George?
George was...
Leclerc's fire. And...
Earth?
Yeah. George's earth, because he's split rocks.
Yeah.
Leclerc's fire, and then Lando's air. Because they also did Lando dirty with his pose also.
Oh,
but they're my top 3.
Very bad.
They are my top 3.
All right, my top 3.
Okay.
My first is Spider-Man 2 scene, Tobey Maguire. He's stopping the train.
Oh, yeah.
So he's got both of his arms stretched out. It looks like he's stopping the train.
Yes.
That's so good. And it's such a different comparison of faces between what the face Tobey Maguire's making and George Russell's face. So I think it's even funnier. My second, Jurassic World with Chris Pratt, how he does his like really low and wide stance for holding the Velociraptors back. George Russell's holding the Velociraptors back. It's really good. And then my last one.
I think I clicked on this one.
I don't know who came up with this idea, but it is genius. George Russell is in the Mercedes logo.
Yes.
And they have taken out the 3 prongs of the Mercedes logo, flipped George Russell upside down, and then put him in. And I beg, please, if somehow
special livery for one weekend.
If somehow the Mercedes AMG social media team is listening to this podcast, please put that on the nose of the car. Because there's that Mercedes logo right on the nose. And any shot of them coming down a straightaway, you see it right there. It's right there. Please. Please.
Oh, that's all Verstappen season in his rearview mirror is George Russell coming down.
Yes, that's all it is. That would be so funny. It would be like, remember the whole thing on TikTok going around with the girl was a graphic designer and she was remaking companies' logos?
Awful.
Yeah.
Yes.
It would be exactly like that. That would be the same kind of caliber of move, and it would be so good. So good.
I feel like he was probably cracking up at them also. I mean, F1 put it out there. They made him on the green screen. They're like, internet, you know what to do. But like, I need to know what he thought. Like,
he had to. I wouldn't be shocked.
I'm going to see if he's liked any. I think he's on Twitter.
I would love if he came out and was like, this is my favorite. Like,
well, last year there was this meme going around and it was like George Russell's the type of guy. And like you would finish like George Russell's the type of guy to clap when a plane lands, and he ended up tweeting saying, "Yeah, he totally is." He hasn't liked any of them.
No, and I'm looking at his Twitter now. He hasn't like tweeted any out or anything.
I don't think he's very active on Twitter.
His most recent tweet was from March 5th, just talking about how Mercedes not where they need to be right now and everything.
Yeah, but I need to see his reaction. But
dorky little smile on his pinned tweet too from his P1 in Brazil last year.
Yeah, because that should have been talked about, but we're not going back.
He looks like he's cheesing hardcore in this picture.
Listen, you would too if you got P1.
You're right. You're 100% right. I have no need to judge. I have no right to judge him or anything, but
you were cheesing when you went under a minute in breaststroke. So.
I was. You're right. That's a fair point. But I have every right to sit here and say that he is cheesing hardcore in this picture.
Yeah,
so
okay. He deserves it.
There you go. There's another clip for the TikTok.
Okay, I'll tag him.
Yeah.
Okay.
He'll respond to be very upset with me.
All right, we're moving on. First race of the season is come and gone. Bahrain GP. I think there was a little part of it in the middle. It was kind of like, okay, this is just going to be like any race last year. Red Bull's flying in the front. But then it did get exciting. But the normal boring stuff. I mean, not boring. Obviously, Max, winner. Followed by Perez on P2 and Fernando Alonso, P3. The masterclass he gave.
Absolute phenomenal drive.
Oh, and phenomenal.
Like you're kind of hitting the nose here. Like 20 laps in, you're like, all right, this is going to be a Red Bull lockout, like whatever, unless somebody crashes or stalls or something. And then I was solely focused on Fernando Alonso and Aston Martin, watching them battle it out with other people and work their way through the midfield and everything. And when Alonso overtook Russell, Russell for third, I was so happy. So happy.
No, not for third. It was Sainz for third.
Oh, Sainz for third. That's right.
Yeah, he overtook Hamilton first and then Sainz for third.
That's right. Yeah, I was very, very happy, and it made the race so much more interesting because the only thing that was going through my mind. Go ahead.
Sorry, go. No, go.
The only thing that was going through my mind was us talking last week about how good they looked at testing and everything. And it was like, this is just proof that Aston Martin's car has something special going on with it.
Something.
And Alonso's going to take advantage of that, being the experienced driver that he is. And
they kept making comments that they think for so long he was making decisions not at the right time about changing teams. That they're like this one might be lining up, that he made the decision at the right time.
I loved there was a radio clip after the race had finished or like a couple laps left where he was like, what a lovely car to drive. And I was like, this dude sounds like he's out for like a Sunday cruise.
There literally was a few laps left and he was like, this is a great car. Then he was like, where's Lance at?
Yeah, he's asking about Lance. Like, I was like, this dude sounds like he's out for like a Sunday cruise down like the West Coast. He's like chilling. He's got no care in the world about what happens. He's so happy. And it's like, I gotta imagine that, like, and it's gonna sound stupid coming out of my mouth, but like, when you're happy with the car, you drive better. And it's like, absolutely. I have to, like, he seemed so just thrilled with the balance and power of the car and everything. And
he didn't
saw that in the race.
Once.
No.
So there was even, like, Chimes Max was complaining. I think he complains, like, once or a few times in a race, but he was even complaining.
Well, he is Max.
True. But, yeah, he had no care in the world, Alonso. And I think, we'll talk about it a little bit, but I honestly think the turning point was Leclerc's engine failing.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Because he was clearly in third by himself.
Yeah.
We knew what the podium was going to look like. And as soon as that ended, Alonso was probably like, let's go.
As soon as Leclerc had to pull off and everything, Alonso saw that door swing wide open, and he took it. He was like, all right, I'm going to go for it. And then Sainz, I think, said over the radio, too, like, there was nothing I could do. Like,
no, he even, Sainz said at one point, if he tried pushing it anymore, he didn't think he was going to finish.
Yeah, see, he would have ruined the tires then. But
yeah, I mean, I have more on that coming up with like the gaps and stuff. But yeah, I think that was the turning point, was Leclerc not being able to finish. And Alonso was like, this is not coming for third.
Yeah, he was in a rocket ship, and there was no stopping.
So was Red Bull. Red Bull was told. I saw Red Bull. They told them to turn down their engines. Yeah, because they didn't need to be using the full power. I was like, oh, it's gonna be a long season.
I mean, if they're in that much of a lead, like, no need to kill the car. Like, no. You got that much of a gap between people. Like, don't kill the car. Like,
no,
you're already winning. It's enough.
Yeah. And obviously, driver of the day, as voted on, was Alonso. Deserved it from start to finish.
That is that's my personal driver of the day as well.
Is he?
Yeah, I know it's kind of boring, but like, and I think your personal pick of the driver of the day is also a really good pick. But
I kind of have another one also.
I just think that, like we said, the absolute masterclass that he put on in terms of driving, and what you said too, of it seems like, and granted, this is the first race, you got to take things with a grain of salt, but like,
true.
If things continue to go this way for Aston Martin, Alonso finally made the absolute right move and is with a team that he will succeid with.
And our predictions from last week are going to be wrong, because I think it could be Red Bull 1, Aston Martin 2.
I completely agree. If they stay on this trajectory, I think it could easily be Red Bull 1, Aston Martin 2.
There's no stopping.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't realize how many people Aston Martin I guess they didn't poach them from Red Bull, but the people that have worked for Red Bull that are now working for Aston Martin, like the amount of engineers that they have. Yeah.
Oh,
so I think, what's his name? Helmut Marko, whatever. I'm probably pronouncing his name so wrong. I think I saw an article today, like he was complaining a little bit, like obviously their memory's not short because
yeah, they probably went in there and were immediately like,
yeah. I mean,
hey, this is how Red Bull did it. Let's do it the same way. Like,
Stroll's dad's not stupid. Come on.
No, he's a businessman. He knows how to analyze who's the strongest and then imitate that. Absolutely.
Yeah. But obviously the team standings after Bahrain, I'm going to post this graphic tonight. Obviously Red Bull, because 1-2, they have 45 points. Aston Martin with 23. Mercedes with 16. Ferrari with 12. Alfa Romeo with 4. Alpine with 2. Williams with 1. And then AlphaTauri, Haas, and McLaren with all have 0.
Yeah.
Which will also. And then
by the way.
What's it called? The driver's standing. Obviously, Max is in first with 25. No surprise there.
No shock.
Checo with 18. Fernando Alonso with 15. Carlos Sainz with 12. Hamilton 10. Lance Stroll with 8. George Russell 6. Bottas with 4. Gasly with 2. Williams with Alexander Albon with 1. And then I'm not going to say the rest have 0.
Something about you saying Alexander Albon with 1 just sounds so pathetic. But
I mean, he got into the points, though.
He got points on the first race of the season.
And Logan
for Williams,
Sargent was, and Logan Sargent was 12. So
yeah, he's not far behind.
They might be one to watch. No. All right. So you mentioned it. Your personal driver of the day. You said Fernando Alonso.
Yep.
I said Pierre Gasly. They didn't show him nearly enough on the TV broadcast, but he started P20 and ended up P9. So
that is fantastic.
He drove incredible. I wish they showed him more. He deserved to be showed more. And then also I'm adding one other one, but after I saw the post today, Lance Stroll. He's also could be driver of the day.
Yeah, I didn't read that post yet. I should have read it.
Because I screenshotted it. He didn't just break his wrist.
Wait, what? He didn't just break his wrist?
So it says on Saturday, February 18th, I crashed on my bike while training in Spain. The scan showed that I had a fracture and displacement in my right wrist, a fracture in my left wrist, a partial fracture in my left hand, and finally another fracture in the big toe on my right foot.
Oh my gosh.
And somehow he was P6.
I mean, after that is... P6.
And had surgery.
That's
he
incredible.
even goes on to say that the surgeon said, following the surgery, they told him he'd be back for Jeddah if he worked hard. And with a bit of luck, he was optimistic he could race in Bahrain.
Wow.
And then the video shows him obviously doing all this crazy PT and there was even one clip, it looked so strange. I don't know what he was on, but it was like shaking. But I guess to replicate the car shaking.
The cars probably shake so much, and just that constant vibration in your wrists and hands that are broken and sprained or fractured. Like,
I mean, they showed him, obviously there was that clip of him being helped out of the car after practice. But I mean, I've broken plenty of toes. It's hard to put pressure, so I can only imagine. And if you have 2 broken wrists, like, what are you lifting yourself with?
Yeah, you're like using your elbows to like get you out of there.
I mean, and they're sitting in that driver's seat that's made for them, so it's definitely snug. But yeah, between him and Gasly, they're my personal driver of the days.
Gasly, I remember. I do wish that they covered Gasly a little bit more, especially with how well he did. The only thing I really remember from his drive is when they showed the leaderboard and it shows like positions gained and everything. I just remember seeing a green arrow up and it said 11 next to Gasly, and I was like, "Whoa!" I was like,
"Well." After how crappy his how crappy his qualifying was, they deleted the time, and that's why it ended up P20.
Oh yeah, yeah. For him
to
go P20 to P9, a phenomenal day. I mean, Alpine
first race with a new car.
Thrilled with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Which we'll talk about the other Alpine driver in a little bit. Okay, some other topics from the race. It's like if we had a podcast last year, we'd be talking about this last year.
Oh,
Ferrari's reliability. Which now it's come out that apparently it was a human error. He might not need to take a 10 grid place penalty, which thank God. But
that would be nice, yeah.
Learn how to connect your wires. How do you do that? How do you do that?
I mean, it sucks for Charles for the first race. It's
like always him. Why always him?
It's so
There's literally a
brutal,
clip that came out today. I didn't see it on. Apparently, it was on during the race because I think if I should have recorded live reactions because when I saw that he was pulling over to the side, I stopped breathing, and then I went no. I was so upset. And then when they just showed him standing there drinking water on the side, watching the cars go by, I was like, stop showing him all depressed.
Yeah.
My favoritism's not showing. But then there's a video I saw today that it was the vice president of Ferrari, like Ferrari's son.
Yeah.
Was in the garage watching. And when Leclerc DNF'd, he took his headphones off and walked away. Apparently he left. So there's people are freaking out because they're like, why didn't he? There's two drivers. Like, how is he leaving? People are like, because clearly by that point we knew Carlos Sainz was not going to do anything.
Yeah, and it's like, yes, there's two drivers. It would have been, I'm sure Carlos Sainz would have loved if he stayed there, and if he did leave, it would have been nice to show his support for Sainz. But like, you also got to think like, if your last name
Leclerc is Ferrari, so
right,
like,
and if you're a person, your last name's Ferrari, and you're watching an F1 race, and one of your cars just shuts off, that has to be like the most like humiliating and painful thing.
Oh,
like, so that I completely get why he would have just been like, I'm out. Like, see you later. I'm not staying here watching this.
He literally was just like,
yeah,
and walked away.
I don't blame him for that at all.
No, I don't blame him.
That makes so much sense.
But I do have to point out, I saw this today. I knew his reaction time was insane, Leclerc, at the beginning of the race, because he jumped on Perez. I think he caught Perez sleeping.
He did have a really good start.
So it's someone like Googled how quickly do F1 drivers react. And this is the average reaction time of an F1 driver is approximately 0.2 seconds.
Ooh.
Leclerc's reaction time, this graphic, it was on TV. They have Leclerc's and Verstappen's. Verstappen's reaction time was 0.23 seconds.
Okay.
Leclerc's was 0.14.
Ew.
Right?
Ew. I mean,
he must have been. I mean, we played the game the other day. He must have been literally.
In that sport, I mean, in this sport, that is definitely everything. But I mean, that is just disgusting.
That's disgusting. Mm-hmm.
For him to have that quick of a reaction time, especially compared to Max Verstappen, too. Like, except Verstappen was 0.21.
0.23.
0.23.
He was almost a whole tenth of a second faster than
that's huge.
Verstappen.
I mean, that's
like, I want to see Perez because Perez was totally sleeping on Leclerc.
Yeah, I remember watching the start of the race, and he got a good jump off the line, and I was like, ooh. And then obviously it didn't, pan out, but like, there are still very good things that came out of that race for Leclerc. And one of the good things now is, like you're saying, like, it may have just been like a set of like crossed wires, which is like very annoying that it happened. Like, it sucks that it happened for him and everything. And I absolutely, like, you don't want to have your first race of the season start that way, especially considering the last Bahrain Grand Prix.
Yeah.
But kind of going back to the same thing, like we were talking about Aston Martin, like, it's the first race. You got to take it with a grain of salt.
It's a long season.
Yeah. I mean, the car cutting out, unfortunately, that is like one of the things that, like, it doesn't matter what race it is. Like, doesn't matter that it's the first or the last, or it's that one race you need to overtake somebody in the constructors, like a team in the constructors championship. Like, it sucks.
Yeah, next week.
It's
next week. Red Bull could have, like, Max could DNF and Leclerc
exactly.
Yeah, and then they're back.
They're back in the race for the like drivers and constructor championship. So
the rivalry everyone wants.
It was hard to watch because I mean, I said it to you today. Like, I'm starting to become more and more of a Ferrari fan. So it's like, that was tough to watch, but I'm trying to stay positive.
And like we mentioned earlier, after watching that, like, Drive to Survive, like, you just saw the hope dwindle in him through the whole
Oh
season.
yeah, you see, and it's tough too because you see everybody then jumping on social media and they're like, "Oh, another bad season for Ferrari," and it's like, I get why you're saying it. I even laughed at some of the stuff, the whole pit crew, the whole what's the word? The wall that they all sit at, like team principals sit at and everything.
Pit lane?
The pit lane, thank you. Well, no, it's like the pit wall, whatever it is.
Yeah, the pit wall. That's what they're.
Yeah. And they all have like clown masks on the entire row of Ferrari and everything. Like, hilarious. But I don't think Ferrari season is over. If this happens maybe in Jeddah and this happens in race 3 and 4, then you'd be like, all right. I think they're.
Yeah, well, race 4 is Miami, right? And that's last year's where it started going downhill. So yeah. No, I sounded like his radio from the French Grand Prix. I sounded like Mom's favorite scene from Revenge of the Sith with Darth Vader screaming no at the end.
Love the reference.
Like, I literally screamed. I was so upset. And then I was like, I just want to write to Twitter, and I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
I was going back and forth between this Twitter and my own personal Twitter. I was like, I can't.
It was definitely.
No, sorry, go ahead.
It was. I mean, yeah. Just again, it was definitely hard to watch. It sucks for Charles, and the fact that you're right, it always seems to happen to him.
It's always him.
And it's not the. After last year, it is not the way that Charles wanted to start 2023. But again, it's first race. I am hopeful, and
I have a feeling the hope is still there.
Yes, I am hoping that it is just like that situation of crossed wires. That's all it is. Forget it. Move on. You know, it's. If
you're that person that was like, oh, I just didn't plug it in all the way.
Could you? Oh my God. Like that, like to me, like being in like technology and IT and everything, like that's always my first thought of like if I'm setting a computer up and I'm hooking it up to monitors and everything, like that's always my first thought is, are these wires in all the way? If a screen doesn't turn on when I turn on a computer, my first thought is the wire in all the way. Like, and if it, I don't know if it ever will, but if it does come out that it was literally someone plugged in something to the wrong spot, that to me is hilarious. Yeah. And also good news, because then you're like, all right, it's not a major issue where they have to swap the power unit out.
I think if we know that he doesn't need a grid penalty next week, we know that it was just maybe a faulty wire.
That's fair. That's a good point, actually.
They don't have to replace anything.
Yeah. If they don't have to replace a unit.
But I could be up for a Charles Leclerc masterclass from P20 and somehow ending up in third. Because he's done it before.
I could see him doing it. That would make for a really good race.
Yes, it would make for a really good race. But moving on to his teammate, Carlos Sainz, how he kind of just like gave up and gave P3 to Alonso. I know you're coming to the conclusion that I just don't like Carlos Sainz.
I don't know. It's hard because it's like I don't know. I look at this sometimes. I watch it and I watch overtakes happen, and they're like, "Oh, I just couldn't do anything," and you're like, "Could you? Like, could you have done something a little bit more?" I know that's an outsider's perspective, and I'm obviously not in the cockpit of the car defending like somebody that's up my ass, but like at the same time, it does kind of look like you gave up a little bit. Then again, there's so many, there's so many things you have to factor in of like the external factors of like your tires aren't getting grip. Like, the car isn't producing as much power as it should be. Like all that stuff. And that is unfortunately out of the driver's control to some degree, because it's like they can't do anything but step on the pedal harder. And if it's pedals all the way on the floor and the car's just not doing it, the car's just not doing it. Like,
and clearly Aston Martin has a missile. So like, compared to, but I mean, he was even from the beginning, the gap between, obviously Max Verstappen was in his own league after like one lap. Like he was seconds ahead. Perez and Leclerc were pretty close. They were kind of swapping back and forth. And then Carlos was like just a few seconds behind.
In his own little world.
I mean, this isn't by the end after Leclerc is out. So, but for lap 10, Leclerc was in P2 and Sainz was in P4. The gap was almost 7.5 seconds between the two.
That's an eternity.
That's a long time.
That's an eternity in Formula One. Like,
by lap 18, literally not that many laps later, it was almost 8 seconds, the gap. And they were in the same position, P2 and P4. And then at the end of the race, Alonso was in P3, obviously, Carlos Sainz P4. The gap was almost 9.5 seconds.
That is just...
Fernando Alonso's probably almost half out of his car by the time Carlos Sainz is...
Probably.
And then forget the gap from Sainz in P4 to Perez in P2 was 36 seconds.
That's so much.
Let's see. Hold on.
36 seconds separating fourth and second. And like normally that's like 10 seconds at most.
Yeah.
Like
that's like Perez to Verstappen was by the end, their gap was like almost 12 seconds. Unless I'm reading this website wrong. The one that you sent me earlier. But yeah. I mean, I don't know what he was doing. But yeah.
It's just, I mean, listen, you're still getting points in fourth.
True.
It's not a terrible finish, but I would not be shocked if something is said to Sainz about we need a little bit
more. Well, and like after the rumors that were coming out that the car was more suited to him, and Leclerc wasn't happy about it, you would think it would have been switched.
You would expect them to do a little bit better than that. But
two things Ferrari did do correct though. That double stack pit stop, beautiful.
Oh yeah,
beautiful. And then number 2, the strategy with Leclerc during qualifying, saving the softs, so he started on fresh softs.
Smart,
genius,
yes. Very smart.
They didn't care if they went down one place. They knew they were successful, and I know Charles Leclerc was totally acting it up. That's why when he walked over to his side of the garage, he literally kept his face this way.
That's why he kept the helmet on too. He didn't want anybody to see.
Because he was probably cracking up.
Yeah.
And that's a meme in itself. But
for them to do that, obviously in the moment you're like, why are they stopping? Like you want pole position, obviously. But then when you look at it, you're like, that's actually really smart for like, you'd be like, all right, everybody else, burn your softs out a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're gonna.
That's probably why his start was so good, but it was a genius move. And then I held my breath when they called him in for a pit stop, and then Carlos was right behind. I was like, oh my god,
yeah,
this could go bad. This could be Monaco all over again.
That's another ugly radio by Leclerc, where he's like screaming at them, like, "What are you doing?" Like.
And you have Christian Horner saying, like, they just totally fucked Leclerc.
They just, everybody knew it. Like,
everyone knew it. Some fun news. Esteban Ocon couldn't catch a break.
This topic and the next topic that we're going to talk about are what I was looking forward to, I think, the most to talk about. It's because how?
That's the question.
I know.
How?
All right, you get the first penalty, his fault, right?
Yes, his fault.
Because he's over the line.
The official F1 TikTok account posting that video, they're just roasting Esteban Ocon.
Oh my god, kick him while you're down. Why don't you, F1?
Right.
But like, you go over the line.
Fault. Yes.
His fault. Okay, he goes and serves a penalty, and one of his engineers touches the car before the 5 seconds are up.
Yeah.
Okay, not your fault. But still, as a team, doesn't look good because it's like, can't wait. Like, you can't serve your penalty correctly.
So, again, you have to do it.
And then you get another one for speeding through the pit lane. And it's like...
He must have been so angry at that point.
And then again, Esteban's fault. And it's just like, how? That, like, I don't know how else to, like, vocalize the confusion. It's just like, how? How are you... Like at that point, because the only thing going through my mind at that point is like, we've already been handed 2 penalties. I need to make sure I'm on my A game in terms of responsibility and driving.
Not going over the white line at all. Not.
Yeah. Like, I'm not pushing track limits. I'm not, cutting corners. Like, slow the race down a little bit. You're clearly not having a winning race. So, like, at that point, save yourself the embarrassment of not getting more penalties. And then you go and speed in the pit lane. And it's like, how? What? Like,
it's literally like cue like the Oprah meme, like, you get a car, but it's only a spinal con. You get a penalty, and you get another one. You get another one. You get another one.
I was astounded watching it, and it's just like, and when you look at it, and obviously these are two very different drivers, but like when you look at the disaster that was, and then you watch the race by Fernando Alonso, you're just like, this is how you should have been racing. Like, do that. And it's just,
your teammate. Look at your teammate. He started because he got in trouble during qualifying, and look where he ended up.
Yeah. Like, it's just like, I was cracking up, and I was just astounded by the fact of this man was served three penalties totaling 20 seconds, because it was a 5, 10, and a 5. Mm-hmm. Like, what?
How?
Like, seriously,
why?
How? And you're not even a rookie. No! You've done this before. You have a whole season under your belt.
He's won a Grand Prix before. Like, how did you do that?
How do you let that happen? It was.
Yeah, no. You want to talk about the other disaster class of the
this is my other thing. All right, listen. This is how I'm going to break this down.
Take it away.
F1 is a sport about speed, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to do everything as quickly as you can. Pit stops are part of the race. You want to do them as quickly as you can. So when you have a steering wheel issue, and you know that steering wheel needs to turn on, right? Because it's got digital components to it, tracks some stuff.
Gotta boot up.
How do you not like plan for that called like time penalty essentially of waiting for it to boot up? And it's like, again, I'm using this as a reference, but like being in the IT field, like I see that as that's a break point or a point of failure. And it's like, here's a simple solution for fixing that. Put a battery in the wheel. Like, put a battery in the wheel so that you can turn it on before the driver gets there. And then it's got to snap into something because it reads data from the car, right? When he snaps the wheel in, it's got to have some sort of data and power transfer right now. Just make it data. Like, put a battery in the wheel, or put a small enough battery in the wheel that it can turn on and boot up. And then the moment that it snaps into the wheel or the column, it's on.
Yeah.
And it just needs to get that like transfer of data, and it's good to go. And it's like, I literally, like, that man literally sat there and watched his wheel go through a Windows update to turn
I keep picturing I want insert a Windows, like a dial-up, old school dial-up internet, because it literally, they were just waiting.
He put the wheel in. It had a post screen, so it turned on. It like self-tested itself, and then it started going through the motions of like booting everything up. And I'm like, how do you not have a better procedure for this? Like,
and then it just failed.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not. There's nothing wrong with like that's what you need to do, but like again, in a sport about speed, there is a better way. Exactly, there's a totally better way for you to do this, and it's like, okay, you obviously that column, the stem on the back of the wheel connects to the column in the car. That obviously transfers power. Okay, so you want to charge the wheels during the race. Have a stand. You obviously have extra wheels sitting in the garage. Have a stand that like it already. It's like basically a car like column where it snaps into. Like it's just in the garage. A driver or engineer can run up and grab it, yank it out, power it on, have it ready to go, and then it snaps into the car. Away Piastri goes. And it's just like there has to be a better way.
They're all at the top of their engineering fields. They're working for F1 teams traveling the world. Like I would think. There's better
and
way
it's
you can
like,
do it.
or it's like, and I know this might be to the part where I'm like talking out of my ass, but like the boot up time of that got to be quicker. Like, what do you
The
need?
Wi-Fi sucking at Bahrain.
If that's the way that it needs to happen, like it needs to turn on after it makes a connection with the car. Like, okay, you prioritize then booting up to like, or you prioritize a faster boot up time. And it's just like, come on. I also, now that I'm talking about it, now that I'm thinking, Williams, and I don't know if there's any other teams that have this, Williams might have the best steering wheel setup out of everybody because there's no digital components on the Williams steering wheel. It's like it's like a weird U shape, and where most drivers have that screen on the wheel, that is a physical screen on the car itself.
Oh,
so it's like a screen that has like Apple CarPlay. Obviously, it doesn't have Apple CarPlay, but just for comparison, and then
give me
the wheel is like divoted, so that way they can see the screen through the steering wheel and everything. And as far as I can tell, it's all analog buttons on the steering wheel itself. So in theory, to me, all that is then is just if the same issue occurs, it just snaps in, it makes a connection to the readout on the screen if it even needs to do that. Yeah. And then it's done. And then
it's done.
Williams pulls away. Like,
yeah, that's a genius idea.
Yeah.
I mean, like McLaren has the stupid Kindle technology on the side so they can have interchanging ads. You think there's
Hey guys, we're going to spend all of our McLaren's going to breach the cost cap this year for their stupid interchangeable ads and not anything that can actually help the team. That's what will happen this year. Yeah, that was my 3-minute rant on that.
Poor rookie, poor Oscar Piastri literally got 15 laps in and then had to retire.
Mm-hmm.
Like he didn't stand a chance.
It's just, I mean, it summarized that and Lando Norris. Like it just summarized McLaren's season. Like,
oh yeah,
it was a great preview of the season, and like jumping in the Lando Norris too. Like the fact that man had to stop every 10, 15 laps.
He spent over 3 minutes in the pit lane.
Yeah, that is.
I mean, I think I feel like I saw it somewhere. I really feel like they just gave up and started just running tests because they knew they weren't going anywhere.
Yeah, why? Like I would honestly.
Yeah, they just took it as like a practice, but still.
If I was Zach Brown, I think his name is, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what I would do.
I'd just be like, I
would just be like, hey, like screw the points. We're clearly not doing anything good in this one.
No.
Start taking care of the car or start doing this so that way we can figure out like what's going on.
Yeah, no, I felt so bad for Lando. Every time they would be like, he's in the pit lane again. I was like, the poor kid's in the pit lane again.
Yeah.
I was like, what are they doing now?
It's yeah.
But I went on to that. I think that article, another one you sent, I found, talks about it had all the how many pit stops they had and when they had it. And literally for a while, it was just like Norris.
Yeah.
Because he had that many.
I forget. I'm trying to remember what was wrong with the car, but I don't remember exactly. But they had to like pump air into it or something. Or like,
yeah, they did.
Like something weird. And I don't know why they just didn't retire the car. Like
I think by the end they didn't. I don't even think he fully finished. I think he stopped with like.
No, he did. You're right.
No, 55 laps. He stopped with 55 laps.
They didn't
even. Why would you make him get lapped?
At that point, just have him like.
Yeah, 6.
I know I just said
stops.
Finish, like retire the car, but if he's 55 laps in and you're doing the same thing that you've been doing for the past 30 laps, like let him finish the race.
I feel like he didn't even. I don't think he got retired. I think he timed out. Because if you go in graphic, it doesn't say retirement.
He did get lapped, so he may have been timed out.
The gap to Max was 2. He was lapped twice by Max.
Yeah, he definitely timed out then. That's
awful.
That sucks.
Poor Lando. Poor Lando.
I like Lando Norris too.
So do I. He deserves so much better. He should have left with Daniel Ricciardo.
He really should have. The memes with Daniel Ricciardo too.
Oh, ESPN.
Phenomenal. Yeah.
ESPN. Like they didn't hold back.
No, and they shouldn't.
At all.
They absolutely shouldn't.
Well, that's what I was talking to a friend, and he was saying he also watches. If you're listening, hey Eric. He also watches IndyCar, and he was telling me how awful the McLaren team, or I think they're called Arrow something, in Indy are. But it's Zach Brown, because all he cares about is signing drivers.
Big name drivers that don't do
Literally,
anything.
he just collects drivers like Infinity Stones, and then doesn't care about his
Another good
cars.
reference.
You're welcome.
That was good. You got the Darth Vader one, and you got the Infinity Stones. Oh my gosh.
You're welcome.
Should be on streamer season.
No. Anything else you wanted to? That was all I really wanted to recap from the race. I don't think there was really anything else besides Fernando Alonso taking it away.
My biggest rant was about Piastri, because to me it was so stupid.
Yeah,
and can be avoided so easily.
Easily.
But
and I guess we could. I mean, out of all the rookies, Logan Sargent was the best.
Yeah, which is good. I mean, which is a really good sign for Williams.
He didn't end in the points, but
he 12th.
12th. I mean, De Vries was 16th. So
yeah, I mean, that's if I'm Williams, I am thrilled with the day of Albon getting points in 10th and Sargent in 12th, because from there you're hopefully only going up from there,
And whatever, I mean, sorry, one other thing. What happened to Haas? Hulkenberg was killing it. He made it to Q3. And then just
I think he just didn't have the pace.
The pace?
Yeah.
He looked like he had the pace during.
I mean, compared to Red Bull and Aston Martin, that's a big those are big competitors in Q3, but
true.
Yeah, maybe he just didn't have the pace. I didn't hear anything specific.
I don't think anything crazy went wrong. I just think he might have fallen back. But
it happens.
When you see the Haas in Q3, you get a little surprised.
That's a win. That is a win. Really, you know what? I really think my favorite team right now, Ferrari.
Haas.
Second favorite team, Haas. I think that's my list.
You want me to get you a shirt with Gunther Steiner's face on it?
Yes, please.
You want a shirt like this with Gunther on it?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And then on the back is the dash cam picture from him and Matteo, I don't know.
Oh, yes.
In the opening of Drive to Survive.
Yes, or when he says in Drive to Survive Season 1, we're a bunch of fucking legends, or whatever he says.
That's even better. That is even better.
I'll make you one.
Yes.
All right, quick preview, because obviously we'll have an episode next week where we decided now we're going to talk about our theoretical Philadelphia Grand Prix. Coming with a map and all.
I'll have to draw it out now.
Yeah, we'll have to draw it out. We've talked about it before, so we
have talked about it. Maybe I'll do a different one from you now, just to
change it up.
Yeah.
I still think we have to stick with. I still think Boathouse Row would be iconic for a paddock. So.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
But yes, then next week we'll talk more about the Jeddah Grand Prix, which is St. Patrick's Day weekend, with a lovely race time of 1 p.m. So I'm very excited.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Yes.
That's really nice.
Because last week apparently I just lost my time frame and said that we were going to Australia next when we're not going to Australia.
We're not going to Australia next.
No.
We should probably double check that before we start recording these.
Yeah. No, I will.
We are absolutely sure that next race is in Jeddah.
In Jeddah. But yes, so Jeddah, aka
Jeddah.
Saudi Arabia Grand Prix. But
yes.
Other than that, anything else?
No. Looking forward to next week to discuss our fictional Grand Prix.
It's our best episode.
I'm so excited.
All right. Thank you for listening today to the F1 Underground podcast. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to follow us on Instagram at UndergroundF1 and on Twitter at Underground_F1. Huge thank you again to Kyle and the guys over at Underground Sports Philadelphia for helping us make this show happen. Go give that show a follow as well. And we'll see you next time. Get ready for our Philadelphia Grand Prix.